All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're breaking down what's really going on in the Southern Ontario real estate market for September 2025. After months and months of just intense competition, it feels like the tables are finally starting to turn. We're going to dig into the data to show you who really has the advantage right now and, more importantly, what it all means for your next move.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. A pivotal moment. Because after what felt like an eternity of bidding wars and buyers having almost no options, September has brought a huge shift in the air. There's a totally new dynamic playing out, and it's happening all across the region, from the heart of downtown Toronto straight through to the Waterloo region.
So what does this shift actually look like on the ground? Well, the key phrase you're going to hear a lot is a balanced buyer's market. Now, let's be clear. This is not a market crash. Prices aren't falling off a cliff. Think of it more like the market just taking a much-needed deep breath. It simply means there are more homes for sale, which gives buyers more choice and, this is the big one, more power when it comes to negotiating.
So, what's the bottom line here? It's pretty simple. The pendulum has finally swung in the buyer's favor. For the first time in a long while, if you're looking to buy, you've got more choice, you've got more time to think, and you've definitely got more power. Now for sellers, this means the game has totally changed. Let's take a look at what that actually looks like region by region.
Because, Southern Ontario is a massive area, right? The big overarching trend doesn't really tell you the whole story. The experience of a buyer trying to get a condo in downtown Toronto is going to be completely different from someone looking for a family home in Brampton or Hamilton. So let's dig into the regional numbers and see how these different stories are playing out.
And wow, this data shows you just how different things are. In Toronto's core, the 416, the market's pretty stable, holding at a $1.12 million average price. Why? Well, demand for condos downtown is still really strong. But then you just hop over to Peel Region and suddenly it's a clear buyer's market, especially in Brampton, where the number of homes for sale is way, way up. Meanwhile, out in Durham, listings are climbing, but Oshawa is holding its own as a really strong, affordable option.
So this really paints the picture of what's happening in the GTA. It's almost a tale of two markets. The urban core, with that high-density living and unique appeal, it's holding its ground. But the further you move out into the suburbs, where there's just more supply of those single-family homes, buyers are discovering they have a whole lot more room to negotiate.
Okay, now let's look a little west of the GTA. Halton is also shifting to a buyer's market, though, as always, Oakville seems to be pretty resilient. The really big headline here, though, is Hamilton-Burlington. Inventory there has shot up to a multi-year high. That gives buyers an incredible amount of selection. Waterloo is kind of its own story. Prices are holding steady, mostly because there's still really strong demand for family homes in Kitchener and Waterloo.
Okay, so we've established that where you're looking matters a lot. But, the type of home you're looking for is just as important. Right now, a big detached house is behaving very differently in the market than a downtown condo is.
And just look at these price differences between housing types. They are huge. In the GTA, the average detached home is going to set you back over $1.5 million. At the same time, the average condo is around $725,000. I mean, that's less than half. This massive price gap is really the key to understanding everything that's happening right now.
And this chart just makes that price gap so clear. You can really see it in action. That dream of a detached home is getting incredibly expensive, and it's pushing a lot of buyers to look at more affordable options. And that affordability factor, that's what is really driving demand for certain types of homes over others.
So let's put it all together. What does this mean for each housing type? Well, for detached homes, there's more supply out there, so buyers have way more leverage. Townhouses and semi-detached homes, they're doing pretty well because they kind of hit that sweet spot between having some space and being relatively affordable. And condos, they're a real bright spot, especially in Toronto's core, because they're attracting everyone from first-time buyers to investors.
Okay, so we know what is happening, but the really big question is why? Why this specific shift, and why is it happening right now? Well, it really boils down to three major forces that are all colliding at the exact same time.
Let's unpack the three main things driving all of this. We've got a really important interest rate cut. We have this relentless population growth, and then a sudden, massive jump in the number of homes for sale. First up, the big one. The Bank of Canada cut interest rates in early September. You can't overstate what a huge psychological boost this was. It gave all those buyers who are kind of sitting on the sidelines the confidence they needed to jump back into the market, especially people looking at those more affordable entry-level properties like condos.
Second, and this is a constant story in Southern Ontario, people just keep moving here.
This steady in-migration creates a non-stop stream of demand for housing, whether it's to rent or to buy. And what that does is it acts like a price floor. It basically puts a safety net under the market, preventing prices from ever dropping too dramatically, even when things feel unaffordable.
And that brings us to the third factor. And honestly, this might be the most impactful one right now. Inventory. Listings are up somewhere between 15 and 18% compared to this time last year. Now, to put that in perspective, that's not just a small bump. That's thousands and thousands of additional homes on the market. It's a massive increase in choice for buyers.
You see, the surge in listings is kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, for buyers, it's fantastic news. More choice means less panic, less of a rush, and way more power to negotiate. But for the market as a whole, when you have more supply, it naturally puts a bit of a gentle downward pressure on prices, and that's exactly what we're seeing.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get to the most important part of all of this. What does all this data actually mean for you? Whether you're thinking about buying a place or maybe putting your home on the market.
It really all comes down to this. Buyers, your world has just opened up. You have more choice, less of that frantic competition, and a real ability to negotiate. You can breathe. And for sellers, you have to be strategic. Your home has to be priced perfectly from day one, it needs to look its absolute best, and you might need a little more patience for the right offer to come along.
So for buyers, the key takeaway here is simple. Opportunity. This is, without a doubt, the best selection of homes you've seen in years. But that doesn't mean you can get careless. You still have to do your homework on location and price. And if you're looking for the absolute most leverage, the data is pointing you directly towards places like Brampton and Hamilton East.
And for sellers, the big message is adaptation. Buyers are cautious now. They have choices, and they want to feel like they are getting good value for their money. Now, the good news is that a great home that's priced fairly will absolutely 100% still sell. But the days of just putting a sign on the lawn and watching a bidding war erupt, well, for now, in most areas, those days are on pause.
So where do we go from here? Let's just wrap this up with a quick look at what the experts are expecting for the rest of the fall season.
The general consensus seems to be, well, more of the same. Expect the market to stay balanced, maybe still leaning a little bit towards buyers. We'll probably see a small, modest increase in the number of sales, but prices are expected to stay pretty stable, right around where they are today. So no big booms, but no big busts either.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. For years, the whole real estate conversation was about timing, right? It was all about getting into the market before the next big price surge. But in this new market, a market that's really defined by choice and stability, maybe the focus is shifting. With buyers finally having more power, has location, finding the right community, not just the right moment, finally become the most important factor of all. Thanks for tuning in.